Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. The BMW M4 GT3 is the latest GT3 car to be released for iRacing, except you have to add the word prototype on the end of it because it's not even released in real life yet. So this is the latest GT3 car, and I've kind of held off, I've hesitated in buying it and getting involved on iRacing with this particular car for one main reason, which we'll come on to in a bit. But I thought now is the time to actually give it a proper review and see what it's actually like to drive. So that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to break our review into three different parts. We're going to break it down to the looks, the force feedback, and of course the way it drives. So let's get into point one, the looks, right now. Okay, so as far as the looks are concerned, there's really only one place to start this, and that is at the front of the car, because you just cannot look past that grille. It's just so in your face and so controversial. That's the one reason, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, as to why I wasn't too keen to pick this car up. It really is not pretty from the front when you look at it like that, which is a shame, because the rest of the car, if you just cut that grille off, let's just do that, there we go. The rest of the car looks fantastic. See, that's much nicer. You know, you've got big wide arches, you've got a huge rear wing on it. The back end of the car as well, super nice looking car, big square arches, nice vents, big diffuser, etc. Like on this side as well, you've got the huge downpipe just on the side there, just right behind the engine, so that's really, really cool. Yeah, looks wise, if you look at it from this angle, spot on. It looks amazing, can't fault it. It's just if you're looking in the mirror, yeah, there's that to deal with. But let's be honest, when you're driving a car you don't tend to look at the front of the car anyway, so we can probably put that aside slightly and forgive it if it drives nicely. So that leads nicely into the next part of our review. What does it drive like? Okay, so the more observant among you will have noticed from the intro and also from the other shots we've done on the car so far that we're at Silverstone this time round. So we're testing the car on the Grand Prix circuit here at Silverstone, purely because it's a really good circuit to test the nature of the car. So what about the force feedback in the BMW M4 GT3 then? Well, happy to report that it actually does have a really good amount of feel through the wheel. Now, I have been kind of critical in the past to say that iRacing doesn't really give you much of a feel of connection between yourself and the road. But with the M4 at least, when you turn the wheel and you start to lean on the tyres a little bit, you can actually feel the car moving around. You can actually feel the weight of the car shifting in your hands, which is a good sign, and it actually promotes quite a bit of confidence when you're actually driving the car, because you think, well, yeah, if I turn it into here, I'm going to know exactly what the front tyres are doing. So it actually makes quite a bit of help for driving the car on track, because you can just load the tyres up, feel where the edge of the grip is, and then just keep pushing through the corner as fast as you possibly can, and that obviously helps you to get quicker lap times. So even there, when the back end was trying to come round on me, it was communicative enough to let me know that's what's going to happen. So that's a really good strong point for me. Obviously you can change the force feedback depending on your wheel and whatever settings you're using, but for me, as a general rule of thumb, compared to some of the other cars that I've driven in iRacing, the force feedback on this M4 does feel very good actually. I'm very impressed with it. Okay, so what about the driving then? So the first thing that we're going to talk about is the sound of the car, because that's very important in sim racing, to actually have a good sound behind you, so you, one, feel immersed in the sim, but also it's useful for figuring out key things such as how much grip your tyres are going to give you and all that kind of stuff. So the sound of the car, this is a 6-cylinder, it's an inline 6, but it's a turbocharged inline 6. So it's actually a little bit quieter. When you compare this to some of the other GT3 cars within iRacing, it actually does sound pretty quiet, and that's probably going to be quite much the case in the real world as well, because I do know the M6, when they used that as their GT3 car for BMW, that was very quiet compared to everything else that was on the track with it. However, as it's a straight 6, there's a really nice kind of rasp to it. It does sound really good actually. I do like the sound of this car. It's got the same kind of overrun crackles as you would get on the M8 as well, which is a more apparent on the external cameras when you're watching the replays and things, but you can just hear a faint kind of a cackle in the background just when you run into a corner here. Just about hear it through there as I run off. Too busy listening to the noise of the car. Right, so sounds. Good tick for that one. They sound very good. I do like them. There's a nice transmission whine in there. It's not overpowering. There's no gearbox compressor sounds constantly ringing every time you downshift, which is a welcome break from some cars which you drive. So it's constantly just making this kind of whining noise that you're saying, oh, you shifted down. So it's nice to not have that constantly going off in your ear. So anyway, enough about the sounds. It sounds good. What about the driving experience then? So, as far as I can tell so far, I'm running a custom setup on this car at the moment, specific for Silverstone. But from what I can tell, the car does feel very planted. I know I had a couple of slidey moments, but that's on the first couple of laps when the tyres are not quite up to temp. But once the tyres do start to warm up to the level that they need to be at, there is a good amount of grip. And it does actually drive really nicely, so you can actually be quite confident going into a corner. You know, when you approach it, you can actually get it turned in nicely and rotated through the corner. One thing that this car does like is quite a lot of trail braking. So being a front engine car, obviously you've got all the weight over the front axle, and that usually provides a bit more mechanical grip just because of the weight pushing the tyres into the ground. But it does sometimes mean that the front end can be quite lazy on turning, so you have to kind of coax it in on the brakes, which is where trail braking really comes into its own with this particular car, and any front engine car that you would drive as well. But yeah, I think to unlock the absolute maximum from this car, you do need to be using a fair amount of trail braking just to help with that rotation through the corner. But when you come out the corner, you can put the power down quite solidly actually, and there's plenty of grip from the rear end. There's plenty of aero as well, obviously you've got a huge rear wing on the back. But when you apply the throttle on the exit of the corner, you can do it with a good amount of confidence. I mean, I was flat quite early on through there, and even though the back end was starting to kind of give it a little bit of a wiggle just to say, hey look, I'm running out of grip here, it's controllable, so you can actually just provide some little inputs just to counteract those moments of lost grip on the rear end, which obviously makes for a very confidence-inspiring driving experience. But obviously the main thing with GT3 is competitiveness. We know that GT3 is a very popular class of car in sim racing and world racing as well. And a lot of drivers run these cars, so we know in iRacing that certain cars tend to be quicker than others depending on the balance of performance, as they call it, to try and equalise all the cars from the different brands. But sometimes there's a car that's just that little bit better than everything else, and most people will gravitate towards that car just so they have a chance of being competitive in races. Now this being a prototype car, as you mentioned at the beginning of the video as well, it's obviously still in production. They've had a chance with BMW to work together on this car and to try and put it into the virtual world to allow sim racers like ourselves to experience it and give it a go. So there may well be some further revisions made to the car before its actual official release as well. So we've got to bear that in mind, but in the present moment with this car as it is, it's not too bad. At Le Mans last week's schedule for, I think it was IMLA, or the European Le Mans Series as it's now known, it was pretty competitive around Le Mans. Here at Silverstone, I've done a back-to-back test with this and the latest GT3 car that's been released for iRacing, the Lamborghini Huracan. And it turns out that the Huracan round here is considerably quicker than the M3, which is a shame because this car is actually really good to drive and it's actually worth picking up. If you can look past that grille and just kind of forget it's there, and just enjoy the driving experience, you will actually enjoy driving this car. So again, through there, just trying to wobble this way through that last part of the club section there, but easily controllable with a bit of counter steering and throttle control as well. Again, it's trying to break away on the exit there, but manageable. But in terms of its competitiveness, particularly this week at Silverstone, so I missed the apex and the corner entirely, this week the Lambo is quicker. However, that's not to say it won't be quick at other circuits, so that remains to be seen. But in general, it's not far off the pace. It's not like it's enormous amounts of time that we're talking on here. It could just be down to time in the seat and just driving the car and getting used to its little handling characteristics. But out of the box, the Lambo is a lot quicker to pick up and just run with. That being said, I have seen times set by pro drivers in this car which have been right on pace with the Lamborghini as well, so the balance of performance is probably there for the person who actually spends the time to get to know the car better and just extract everything out of it as well. But that's the same with most GT3 cars. You always find something which is quick somewhere and then not so quick everywhere else, or just easier to jump in and drive than other cars. So that's nothing new. But as far as the driving experience is concerned, this BMW M4 GT3 is very, very good as well. So I'm not going to give it a rating out of 10, but it's right up there in terms of driving experiences. It is very, very fun to drive and well worth checking out. So everything points to it being rather good. So is it good, bad, or just plain ugly? Well, I'm going to say it's actually good and ugly, but only at the front. Anyway, if you enjoy this video and you enjoy our content from us here at Sim Racing Bible, please consider liking this video, and also if you want to see more from us in the future, please do consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll be putting more content out in the near future as well, so stay tuned for that. But until next time, we'll see you very soon.